Oh, she does it again, guys. Vice President Kamala Harris, she tried winning back black voters in this interview with the National Association of Black Journalists. The result? Former White House senior counsel Kellyanne Conway said she was condescending to the NABJ moderators and, to a certain extent, the American people.
It was pretty typical. I found the vice president to be a little condescending, if not rude, to the moderators today when they dare push her to actually answer the question that they asked, and they had every right to ask, including, we saw probably 30 minutes ago, Martha and Patrick, a question about handguns. She wanted to talk about assault weapons. The moderator tried to get her back to talk about handguns. She doesn't like that, and I think Kamala Harris takes the media for granted the way she takes for granted, you know, hardcore Democrats who have never voted any other way, who are excited about her candidacy and wearing her hats, buttons, and shirts. She already feels like she has those constituencies, so she feels like she can bat the media around a little bit and bend them to her will. Look, it went down from there with President Trump when he went for that interview last month, and I think that these moderators lose an opportunity to ask questions that people are asking around the kitchen tables, over the water cooler, over the cappuccino counters. And we heard some of that today, but her answers were worse than the questions. I know at least two of those journalists. I think they tried hard, but the fact is her answers were terrible. See, she sometimes talks like a Hallmark card, and not even the kind that sings when you open it. What is this nonsense about she's going to build cars. She's forcing us to buy electric vehicles. Will the kitchen be in the carburetor? Will the bedroom be in the back seat? I mean, she's done nothing to help. Build Back Better gave $500 billion plus to clean energy and climate stuff. It wasn't about building homes for people. So I think the last part of what President Trump said to her on the debate stage last week is the most important. And these journalists were echoing it today. You've been there for 3.5 years. You haven't done any of this. We have very little faith that you can do it in the future.
Will Pierce, former senior advisor to Bernie Sanders, he called it just a little bit too late.
So Kamala Harris spoke with the National Association of Black Journalists in her second sit-down interview, and the treatment she got was very different compared to the questions Trump faced last month. Listen.
You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
And for you to start off a question and answer period in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Your opponent and Republicans have at times weaponized you laughing. Why is joy important to you to insert into this election?
There are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them.
Oh, how nice. Here to discuss is former executive director for Draft Biden 2016, former senior advisor to Bernie Sanders, Will Pierce. Will, it's good to see you again. I guess my question is, black folks, we got real issues in the country right now. It's not just being soft, but not asking any of the questions that impact us on a day-to-day basis. Right?
Lawrence, it's just ridiculous. I think we've seen more hard-hitting questions asked in a high school class president election. They had a chance of one of the first interviews with Kamala Harris in this election, and they asked softball questions that basically just made it seem like it was more of a campaign event rather than a hard-hitting interview. Yeah.
So what's the impact on black voters? Do you think many of the folks that are living within the community are listening to an interview like this, are taking their talking points, or do you think they're just going to vote differently?
I think they're going to vote differently. What we've been seeing is a major shift, especially amongst young black men. The numbers are showing that they're more shifting now to Donald Trump overall, and this has been going all throughout the whole entire summer. The main reason why the Harris campaign did this interview in the first place is because of those numbers. They were actually thinking about not doing this interview going back to July when President Trump did it, and I think this really was a tipping point when they saw the numbers, when they saw that they're losing this base. They thought, hey, we can get it back with this interview. But I'm sorry, that was just too little, too late.
Now remember, guys, this woman stood up for violent rioters burning down the city, and then she bailed them freaking out. In fact, Kamala Harris raised millions to help bail rioters out of jail and supported defunding our police. Kamala Harris also spoke about the black vote in the NABJ interview, and she took a far different approach than President Joe Biden did in 2020. Because if you guys remember, President Joe Biden, he said during the 2020 campaign, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for him or for Trump, then you ain't black. So basically, you're turning in your black card if you happen to vote for Donald Trump. Well, guess I ain't black. Now, of course, that definitely did not go very well for the president, and we're now seeing the impact down the line with the black voters, specifically male black voters really starting to come together under Donald Trump. Harris, however, she said that she expects to have to earn the black vote, particularly black men. The vice president said that it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Yeah, well, that's probably the first smart thing she said in the last 3.5 years. Then again, if she loses, many say that she's going to be Asian again. I guess what I'm really trying to say here, guys, is more than race and identity, what voters are really looking for, they're looking for concrete solutions to their problems. And this NABJ interview with Kamala Harris just did not offer those much. NABJ moderator and political writer Eugene Daniels, he noted that the Democratic presidential nominee has supported Democratic calls on President Joe Biden to create a commission to weigh in on slavery reparations initiative. So the question to Harris was, would she as president take direct actions to create this commission, or does she believe it could happen in Congress? What we got from Kamala Harris was a signature word salad. Now, again, if it was a clear yes or no, she would have just said that. But watch what she does instead.
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she was an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost. And she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward. Look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history in spite of the fact that some people would try and erase history and try and teach our children otherwise. We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have had impact. And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But part of what we can do right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy.
So yeah, guys, did you get anything from that? Now, honestly, guys, it was a simple yes or no answer, and we got a resounding non-answer. I feel dumber after listening to her. I read a book a long time ago, and it basically said something that was really powerful and profound to me, and it said something along the lines of, look at your 5 closest friends, and typically your income is an average of your 5 closest friends. Now, with that being said, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, how do I find people who made way more than me so I could increase my chances of having a higher income? I mean, it only made sense, right? For less than a cup of coffee a day, for less than $1 a day, join a powerful network of people who are ready to change their lives for the better. And I will be putting a limit on this group, so get in while you can. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. Now, to quote the VP, these are facts that have impact, and we need to speak truth about it in a way that's about deriving solutions. Harris, as a senator, co-sponsored a bill to authorize the creation of a federal committee to study the history of U.S. slavery and examine possible reparation payments to Black Americans. But now, the Democratic presidential candidate, she's not making any promises. Instead, she said she's not discounting the importance of any executive action, but ultimately Congress, because if you're going to talk about it in any substantial way, there will be hearings, there will be a level of public education and dialogue. And when all else failed, she resorted to throwing mud at Republicans. Now, without naming any names, Kamala Harris mentioned the need to speak truth about so-called leaders who say enslaved people benefited from slavery. That's likely a reference to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who Harris attacked publicly for approving new guidelines on the teaching of slavery in public schools last year. On the Middle East, Kamala Harris called again for an end to Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza. Now, without mentioning the name of the terrorist group that started the conflict, and only saying that a ceasefire deal must be done immediately. She also mentioned her vision for Gaza, that there be no reoccupation of Gaza, that there be no changing of the territorial lines in Gaza, that there be an ability to have security security in the region for all concerned in a way that we can create some stability. But there wasn't a clarification on who she thinks should control the Palestinian enclave in the absence of the Israeli force. Harris also made a mistake when recounting that 1,200 Israelis and some Americans were slaughtered by the jihadist group on October 7th, when in fact, the U.S. officials have said that at least 40 U.S. citizens lost their lives in the atrocity, and included those deaths in the estimation of nearly 1,200 fatalities. She reiterated that the White House line that far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed in the war, and recommitted the United States to the long-standing goal of a two-state solution. Israelis have security, and Palestinians, in equal measure, have security, have self-dimension and dignity. But I doubt that's going to be making Israel very happy. I mean, remember guys, a vocal minority of Israeli critics based in key states like Michigan, which has the largest Arab population in the United States, actually encouraged voters to write uncommitted in party primaries earlier this year. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he has said as well that a two-state solution and a ceasefire are at odds with the Jewish state rights to defend itself against Hamas, Hezbollah, and other proxies of its main enemy, Iran. To that, Harris has voiced her support of a pause that the United States put on 2,000-pound bomb shipments to Israel back in May. She said that there is some leverage that they have had and used, but still, approximately 100 hostages are still believed to be held alive by Hamas, and this is after 6 Israeli captives, including American Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, were found dead in a Hamas tunnel under the city of Rafah. Now remember guys, while Harris is gunning for the top spot in the White House, she's already the freaking vice president of the country. So what exactly are they going to do about this right here and right now is my question. Now, from what I've read, Secretary of State Antony Blinken traveled to Egypt just a few days ago to continue pressing for negotiations, but will not be visiting Israel, meaning a deal's probably not imminent. So yeah, guys, I think that we're starting to get the picture of just how badly that NABJ interview went for the vice president. Some have even mentioned how Harris's voice sounded odd, kind of like she needs to go back to bed. Other people are saying, is this really Kamala Harris or is this a clone? Well, they do like talking about joy in their campaign. Some people, they like to find joy in alcohol. You know what I mean? And guys, we're not even at the most controversial part of the NABJ Harris interview. That's coming later in this video, so don't go anywhere, guys. But first, I just want to give you guys a quick, big thanks for sticking with me, for sticking with us so far, and an even bigger thanks for lighting up the like button, guys. You're really helping us out a lot to get our content to even more folks out there where more like-minded people can find us. Now, speaking of, guys, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on future videos and content. All right, so in the next part of the NABJ interview with Kamala Harris, the moderators turned to the second assassination attempt made on Donald Trump's life over the weekend. So Harris indicated that she spoke to Donald Trump after the close call to check on him. Now, according to Kamala Harris in her interview, in a democracy, there's no place for political violence. We can and should have healthy debates and discussions and disagreements, but not resort to violence to resolve those issues. They asked her what she thought of the Secret Service and their capability to protect her. That's when things got a little bit weird as Kamala Harris started talking about the fact that there's far too many people in our country right now who are not feeling safe. She mentioned Project 2025 and Don't Say Gay laws. They asked her if she felt safe with the Secret Service, but her answer was that members of the LGBTQ community don't feel safe right now. Immigrants or people with an immigrant background don't feel safe right now. Women don't feel safe right now. She eventually confirmed that yes, she feels safe, but she had to take us all around the neighborhood, through the bushes, cut through some people's yards before actually answering the question. That's typical word salad Kamala Harris, isn't it? But talking about people not feeling safe 2 days after the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, White House press secretary was torched by Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy for again labeling Donald Trump a threat to democracy. Here, take a look.
It's been only 2 days since somebody allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat. How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
And they laugh about this on TV. But rest assured that the violence is not something that should be laughed about.
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay.
Because American people are watching. And to say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was grateful that he was okay.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school.
If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym.
From an administration who has called out January 6th, called out the attack of Paul Pelosi. You had more than 2,000 people who were told to go to the Capitol. It was one of the darkest days of our democracy. One of the darkest days. There were law enforcement officers who died because of what happened at the Capitol. And they were there because the former president told them to go there. I mean, I don't know if that's not a threat in our democracy when it was one of the darkest days of our democracy, January 6th, one of the darkest days.
So Kamala Harris herself in the NABJ interview slammed the former president for what the moderators described as racially charged rhetoric again about Haitian migrants in a small Ohio town eating people's pets. Harris called what Trump said as harmful, hateful, and grounded in some age-old stuff that we should not have the tolerance for. She declared Donald Trump as someone who cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed to divide us as a country, is what she said. One of the moderators asked the VP if this is a case of irredeemable racism that deserves some sort of a federal response to help the community heal. From there, Harris backed down and sidestepped the question. Shocker. But the damage was already done, and former President Donald Trump continues to be painted as a threat to democracy by Democrats. He confirmed it himself. In a Fox News interview after the second assassination attempt, our former commander-in-chief placed the blame on the White House, as he said that President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris's rhetoric is what is causing him to be shot at. That suspected gunman acted on highly inflammatory language of Democrats. The suspected gunman, Ryan Wesley Ruth, had an AK-47 style rifle pointing through the chain link fence out toward the green. He also had a GoPro camera, 2 backpacks. He ran from the scene but was pulled over and arrested on I-95. Later, they found out that Ruth previously echoed Biden and Kamala Harris's anti-Trump sentiments, that democracy is on the ballot of his social media pages this year, and that Democrats cannot lose. Ruth posted about politics often and donated to only Democratic candidates and causes. So for Trump, the gunman believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris, and he acted on it. Trump called Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the enemy from within and said that they are the real threat. Trump also said that Biden and Kamala Harris's policies are destroying the country by allowing millions of very dangerous migrants to pour into and destroying our country and our cities. That on the outside, we are weak and feeble and we're not respected by the world anymore. He also slammed the media, saying that they're made up of fools that will spew Democrats' garbage and spew their sick philosophies and will protect them at all costs. So yeah, guys, we're in highly dangerous times right now, and Democrats' rhetoric, they're not helping things very much here. Neither is Kamala Harris with her word salad interviews. But what about you guys? Let me ask, do you feel safe in the country right now?
My understanding, according to both of them, is that that car has been identified, and I believe it's been surrounded. Whether or not that person has been apprehended or not, I don't know. This happened in a matter of seconds. A little more color, a little bit more details on this is that when they got on top of the president, immediately what is called a fast cart that I believe has steel reinforcement and protection was able to whisk the president away. And then the Secret Service immediately sprung into action.
This is by far the most insane presidential election year for our country. Imagine having 2 assassination attempts on the same guy that the left wants you to punch. The violent rhetoric against Donald Trump has gotten to a point where government officials, even the president and the vice president, are saying Trump needs to be taken out. Now, as you guys might remember, Trump talked about the first assassination attempt once during his debate with VP Harris. And what happened there? The moderators cut him off. I guess they're afraid that he'd come in with the truth. They wanted us to forget about what happened. They wanted to cover it up, folks. They didn't want the first assassination attempt discussed during the presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on ABC. that it is the Harris-Biden administration who has weaponized the justice system here. They've also incited violence against him multiple times. I mean, they've done it so frequently that there's an entire compilation of it.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
This is the exact same rhetoric that the left has been pushing for the past few years. And you guys might remember that Vice President Kamala Harris did the exact same thing during their ABC debate. She pushed a lie about the former president, and he's somehow the guy who's asking for all this.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was.
Anybody else notice how David Muir just ignored Kamala Harris's lie? No fact checking for her. He knows for a fact that the bloodbath Donald Trump was referring to was not literal. In fact, let's go ahead and play the entire clip to give us context as to what Donald Trump was really talking about here.
They think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
But the left and mainstream media, they'll have you believe that Donald Trump is the one that's pushing for violence, that Trump is the guy that's standing between chaos and peace. But why is Trump the only presidential candidate that's getting shot at? Now, don't get me wrong, guys. No one should be getting shot at. But the message that's been propagated for years is that Trump is evil and he will bring war and pain to the United States, and that he's a threat to democracy and all this other crap. Do any of you guys believe this narrative? Now, we're sure to get more information about this recent second shooting as the days go by, but it's extremely disappointing that they got this close to him. But of course, you got to get a word from Donald Trump himself. This guy is now in his third life, so it's important to know what he's thinking. In an email sent to his fundraising list after this attempt on his life, Trump confirmed that he was safe. He added that nothing will slow me down. I will never surrender. That last part was in all caps, by the way. Now, at this point, we've been informed by law enforcement officials that at least one suspect is in custody. And just to kind of get this out the way, the first thing that Donald Trump did when he got back to the clubhouse was check on everybody. He wanted to know if everyone who was with him was safe. And I think that really speaks volumes about his character, because the left has painted him as this selfish narcissist. AOC even said that Donald Trump would sell out the country for a mere $1. Do you really think that AOC is right in her assessment of former President Trump? Now, all of this is happening as Kamala Harris is struggling in the polls, even though they want you to believe that she won the debate.
Well, Donald Trump's closing statement at the presidential debate has struck a chord with TikTokers all over the world. The video posted by ABC News official TikTok received over 1 million likes and a staggering 17 million views. And that number continues to climb. Trump's remarks is a question that voters will likely be thinking about before they cast their ballot. Watch.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it?
24 million views last I saw it on TikTok. Even President Biden showed signs of leaving the party as he briefly wore a Donald Trump hat in Pennsylvania.
Oh, sure, I'll go.
Huh?
Yeah.
You remember your name?
I don't remember my name. I'm slow.
You're an old part. You're an old part.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm an old guy.
And you're an old part, right?
I know you would know about that.
What?
About being old.
Oh, I know.
All right.
I'm a young timer. Huh?
You know, he reminds me of the guys I grew up with. There was always one in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, I'm the only one.
There you go, man. I need that hat.
You want my autograph?
Hell no.
You know my name. Come on.
I ain't going that far.
Yeah, you said you would do a selfie. There he goes.
Just remember, no eating dogs and cats.
Hey, they're good.
Thank you.
They're good. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I hope you like the pizza.
I mean, blink twice if you're being held against your will, Joe. No joke, the moment felt like a cry for help from the president, don't you guys think? I mean, maybe he really is in trouble with his party. Some people say that with President Biden signaling some serious hate for Kamala Harris and the Democratic higher-ups for replacing him. More on that later. But yeah, everything seems to be going wrong for the Democratic Party ever since the presidential debate with former President Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I mean, sure, you've got their mainstream media spinning the news that Kamala Harris won the debate on ABC, but Reuters admitted that their own group of undecided voters remain unconvinced that the Democratic vice president was the better candidate. Reuters interviewed 10 people who are still unsure about how they're going to be voting in the November 5th election before they watch the debate. And guess what, guys? 6 said afterward that they would now either vote for Trump or they're leaning toward backing him. 3 said that they would now back Harris, and 1 was still unsure how he would vote. Now, this is really big, guys, especially considering exactly how tight this race is between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. The election will likely be decided by just tens of thousands of votes in just a handful of battleground states, many of whom are swing voters like the undecided voters who spoke to Reuters. So Harris is definitely not making a good impression on voters. Among the 10 interviewees from Reuters, 5 said they found Harris vague during the more than 90-minute debate on how exactly she planned to improve the United States economy and to deal with the high cost of living, which is a very top concern for voters. Not to mention the weekend before the debate, a New York Times Siena College opinion poll showed that more than a quarter of likely voters feel that they do not know enough about her, in contrast to how well they know Donald Trump. The Trump converts actually said that they trusted Trump more on the economy, even though all of them said that they did not like him as a person. And hey, like Trump said, like him or hate him, you still gotta vote for him. It's not about being his best friend. Do you like the policies or not? Do you like the current state of the economy or not? Were your finances better before Kamala Harris and Biden or what? But true enough, guys, voters said that their personal financial situation had been better when Donald Trump was president during 2017 to 2021. 4 out of 6 voters said that Kamala Harris did not convince them that she would pursue different economic policies than Democratic President Joe Biden, something that they blame for the high cost of living. Now, if you want more content like this, I have another video that I highly recommend. There we show footage of Trump alleged gunman Ryan Ruth talking about the fight between good and evil, plus big names like Vivek Ramaswamy and Hillary Clinton weighing in. That's right, guys. Yes. Talk about good and evil, right? Definitely check that one out after this one, guys. Again, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.